This is QTV News and I am Jammeh Sonko. Thank you for joining us. First, the main local, business and international news headlines. In local news, a TRRC witness says complicity by Gambians helped facilitate Jammeh's authoritarian rule. Victims of human rights violation during ex-President Jammeh's rule informed the public of their planned march set for 25th January 2020. A delegation of a Switzerland-registered Saudi Arabian medical NGO in the country, at the invitation of the First Lady, donates a significant amount of surgical equipment. In business news, as Brexit nears, UK woos African leaders and half a billion are underemployed and unemployed worldwide. The UN says it is brewing trouble. In international news, repatriation of an Islamic State bride causes Norway's government to collapse. First, the local news in detail. The silence of Gambians was a major contributory factor to cementing the Jammeh dictatorship, remarks made on Tuesday by an expert witness, Professor Abdoulaye Sen, on the second day of his testimony at the TRRC on the making of Yahya Jammeh's dictatorship. QTV's Ansuman Esonyasi has the rest of that.
Continuing his testimony, Professor Abdoulaye Sen on Tuesday likened ex-President Jammeh to renowned dictators General Idi Amin of Uganda and Germany's Adolf Hitler. Mandated by the Commission to conduct extensive research into the Jammeh authoritarian rule, the witness says the former president's irrational actions, such as his involvement in business, which he believes is as a result of his lust for money, had negatively impacted the economy, especially in the latter part of his presidency.
Development aid, monies that had to be dispersed, basically went through Jammeh himself, for the most part.
And in paragraph 84 of your report, you identified the effects of such actions.
Yes.
Could you tell us about it? How did it impact on the economy?
Well, the economy basically nosedived because the institutions didn't have the effect, policy mandates to carry out whatever they were supposed to do. And relying mostly on domestic and foreign borrowing, this further exacerbated the economic problems that existed before.
Furthermore, the witness explained how Jammeh used the state broadcaster GRTS as a propaganda machine, and how he used state institutions and clandestine security outfits like the junglers to silence critics, thereby consolidating and sustaining his regime.
He was to do that not alone, he had enablers.
Yes.
Could you tell us about that?
And that really is the irony of all. It is a paradox in that he had people around him who worked in tandem with him, who worked very closely with him. They too enjoyed the spoils. But again, he couldn't have done it alone. The repression, the killings, and whatever else that he might have done couldn't have been executed by a single person. He had underlings who benefited to some degree from their closeness to him.
He also testified on the underlying perspectives that led to the commission of grave human rights violations under the Jammeh regime. He went on to explain how the former president's utterances were made policy without due process. The witness said all Gambians are to be blamed for the Jammeh dictatorship, as the public silence gave him the space to oversee what he described as a national security vampire state. Ansumane Sonyasi for QTV News.
Victims of human rights violations during ex-President Jammeh's rule held a press conference on Monday at the Victim Center to inform the public of their planned peaceful protest march set for 25th January 2020. This march is prompted by the recent protests by APRC supporters requesting the return to the Gambia of former President Yahya Jammeh, founder of their party and who is currently living in exile in Equatorial Guinea. A staff of the Victim Center, Isabel dos Santos, says The APRC protest demanding the return of Yahya Jammeh as a free citizen is beyond mockery to the plight of the victims. However, she said the announcement made by the Minister of Justice is welcomed.
The same political party that enabled Jammeh to stifle the good-given voices of all Gambians tortured, maimed, killed our loved ones, and sexually abused our women for the past 22 years was given a permit to protest for the return of the most cruel and inhuman dictator who victimized the entire Gambia. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the victims of the past regime are also enjoying a moment of relief. This is a result of the statement delivered by the Attorney General, the Minister of Justice, Honorable Abubakar Tambadou, yesterday at the opening of the 2020 legal year at the High Court in Banjul.
ISLAMIC further called on the government to take certain measures against the APRC party.
In the same vein, we are strongly recommending that the government imposes a ban or suspend the APRC party until such a time that the ongoing TRRC is concluded and its recommendations implemented to enhance a smooth transitional justice process for us to reconcile and unite as people and as a nation.
The chairman of the board of directors of the Victim Center, Sheriff M. Kujera, says the APRC regime has left a negative impact on our nation.
It is 3 years since we ousted dictatorship and installed a government of the people. Until today, we continue to be confronted by the atrocities APRC party ever getting emboldened and shamelessly in denial of the atrocities of gross human rights violations committed by Yahya Jammeh and the APRC regime.
Mr. Kujera says no amount of protest can save Jammeh from facing justice.
If there is anyone out there still hallucinating with the ghost of psychophancy, you can gather your kin and protest from here to Futabalia. And no amount of irresponsible idle talk and political brickmanship will prevent Jallo Kanilai to be chained in circles and brought before his victims to face justice. There is no denying the fact that a lot of the truth about human rights violations that happened in the Gambia between July 1994 and January 2017 has been unveiled through the TRRC public hearing.
The Attorney General and Minister of Justice Abubakar Tambadou, speaking at the ceremony to mark the opening of the 2020 legal year, said that the former President Yahya Jammeh will face arrest and charges if he comes back to the Gambia. Reporting for QTV News, I am Jammeh dos Santos. Turkey's new ambassador to the Gambia, Tolga Bermich, vows to build on the gains of his predecessor in fostering the bilateral cooperation between the Gambia and his country as he presents letters of credence to President Adama Barrow. Aliou Cisse was at the presidency and he files in this report.
Turkey's new ambassador to the Gambia arrived at the seat of the presidency in Banjul on Tuesday morning to present his letters of credence to President Barrow. Speaking to reporters, he describes the Gambia-Turkey relationship as excellent. Ambassador Tolga Bermich promised that his country will continue working towards strengthening the ties with the Gambia in diverse areas.
Relations are excellent in every field, at political level, and we would like to increase our economic relations also. Our economic relations are not at desired level. We should do our best to enhance our trade volume and to bring more Turkish investors to our friendly country, Gambia. The Turkish Airlines launched direct flights from Istanbul to Banjul last year, and we would like to increase the frequency of these flights in the future. If business relations develops, why not? We can increase the frequency more.
The new Turkish diplomats used the occasion to inform President Barrow about the planned visit by the Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. His visit will be the first by a Turkish president to the Gambia.
It will be the first ever visit to Gambia at presidential level from our country. I think it will open up new horizons to the relations of both countries. and he will be accompanied by a big business delegation. It will be a short visit but efficient visit. It will be a good occasion to exchange views, and I think it will bring more high-level visits in the future. And as an ambassador, I am also very lucky for hosting such a big delegation next week, and I will do my best to develop relations between Turkey and Gambia during my tenure in this brotherly country, Gambia.
Ambassador Bamik succeeds Ismail Sefa Yussi, whose diplomatic assignment ended last month. Reporting for QTV News, I am Aliou Cissé.
A national stakeholders dialogue and capacity building for women in procurement was on Monday organized by the International Trade Center in collaboration with the Gambia Public Procurement Authority. I was at the opening ceremony and this is my report. The International Trade Center, in collaboration with the Ministry of Trade, Industry, Regional Integration and Employment, launched the 3-year She Trades project in 2018. The project seeks to develop an action plan for women in public procurement through the She Trades initiative to enabling Gambian women to benefit from economic opportunities, as the procurement profession has traditionally been a male-dominated field. The Director General of the Gambia Public Procurement Authority, Abdoulaye Tambadou, says, for the first time in Gambia, procurement has a particular section in the draft constitution which calls for women participation.
We, at the level of the GPPA, we recognize that the volumes and values of women procurement could be bigger. Out of the government annual expenditure of close to $5 billion, about 60% of that goes to public procurement, and it is also recognized that less than 5% of that goes to women registered or women-owned businesses. So we are in the process of reviewing the Gambia Public Procurement Act in this 2020.
The president of the Gambia Women's Chamber of Commerce, Nafi Barry, says the low participation of women in public procurement is among the issues the Women's Chamber is trying to quickly address.
The constraints has to do with the legislation first and foremost. I think the policy needs to include women. For too long, as we all know, women are the half of the population. However, studies have shown, and it's no exception, that women only benefit 1% of the total procurement, and really to avoid that, that is why we're here today having a policy dialogue for us to be included.
The Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Trade and Regional Integration, Lamin Damfa, spoke on behalf of the Minister of Trade.
The gap between men and women owned businesses in the Gambian economy still remain wide. We have seen from the last labor force survey that women businesses in the formal sector constitute 11.7% compared to 88.7% for men. This indicates that women are less involved and have less capacity to do more business activities in the ecosystem in the Gambia. One way to help rebalance this inequality is through procuring from women-owned businesses.
Reporting for QTV News, I am Jammeh Sonko. A delegation of a Switzerland-registered Saudi Arabian medical NGO, Al-Bassam Cure and Care, is in the country at the invitation of First Lady Fatoumata Barbaro to foster cooperation on medical support. As Aliou Cissé reports, the delegation, led by the First Lady, visited the Edward Francis Small Teaching Hospital, where they made the donation of surgical equipment.
The First Lady's invitation came following talks she held with the group's delegation during her visit to Saudi Arabia in November 2019. Dr. Ahmad A. Bukhari, the Chief Executive Officer of the NGO, said they are in the country to discuss ways to cooperate with the First Lady's Foundation to better improve and support mother and baby care.
I would like to thank Her Excellency, the First Lady of Gambia, Madam Fatoumata Barbaro, because she visited Saudi Arabia and she met us in November 2019. She invited us to come here and we are honored to answer this invitation. The main purpose is to arrive here and see the health authorities here and see the horizons and places where we can cooperate for improvement, for support, for better health care for babies, for better health care for mothers with pregnancy, and for certain medical caravans. We are delighted to do that, and we are hopeful for a great future for Gambia and great cooperative support and repeated visit to our lovely second home, Gambia.
Dr. Bukhari said the visit will give them a better understanding of the country's health sector.
This is the first visit, seeing what is the infrastructure, what is missing, what are the programs, and then after that we go back home to Saudi Arabia, and then we hope in 2020 we'll have some helpful projects to improve the results in healthcare and babies' care. Her Excellency, the First Lady, is concentrating on women. Health care in newborns, in maternal or pregnant ladies, and we have the experience to do that. So I think her main support is for vulnerable patients, especially mothers, pregnant, and newborns and babies and children. You know, as we hear from the authorities of health care, that the majority of Gambia are females and youngsters.
At the Edward Francis Small Teaching Hospital in Banjul, the group handed over 5 boxes of highly specialized surgical equipment for operating on pregnant mothers, young babies and children to the hospital through the First Lady. In receiving the donated materials, Dr. Keba Marena, orthopedic surgeon and head of surgery at the hospital, described the equipment as being of very high quality and a well-known brand for surgical instruments, which will be a good addition to the department.
I'd like to thank our guests, Her Excellency Fatmata Barbaro, who of course is no stranger to the hospital. We see her here frequently. Whenever we see her here, we know that there's usually good things in store. There's something that is going to be given to the hospital, and that's something she's been consistent in doing since she's become First Lady that we've known. Today, the delegation has provided us with some surgical instruments, very high quality. This is a very well-known brand, high quality instruments, which will definitely be a good addition to the surgical department. Instruments are a problem. These are things that will be put to good use. We can assure you that, and we continue to count on your endless support.
The First Lady, Madam Fat Barbaro, also presided over the signing ceremony between our foundation FAP and Al Balslam Care and Care on medical support. Reporting for QTV News, I am Alu Sise.
We will go with a short commercial break, and when we return, as the United Kingdom prepares to leave the European Union, PM Boris Johnson's government has hosted 21 African heads of state in London. Join us after the break for these stories and more, as well as some sports.
QCell is at it again with its brand new free mobile app.
Oh yes! Now you can access the wonderful world of QCell with the new app and get all your favorite services on the app. There's no need to remember any codes.
Fantastic! No more codes. And even better, with the new app you can live stream QTV and listen to Q Radio on your phone anywhere, anytime.
Yes, listen to Q Radio Live, purchase your Q Power tokens, use your Q Money wallet, and do much more, all for free on the app.
Go now and download the app for free from Play Store or the App Store.
And you can get 30 days free QTV streaming once you download the app. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, that's because it's QCell, the network you trust for great things. QCell, a decade of innovation.
A lifetime of trust.
Welcome back from that short commercial break. If you're just tuning in, this is QTV News. In business news, as Brexit nears, UK woos African leaders. As the United Kingdom prepares to leave the European Union, PM Boris Johnson's government has hosted 21 African heads of state in London. Ahead of the summit, it was claimed that £6.5 billion commercial deals have already been signed by the British companies to deliver jobs, growth and investment across the UK and Africa, with deals worth billions more expected to be made during the course of the day. To emphasize the seriousness of the summit, the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge hosted a Buckingham Palace reception for the African leaders. Africa has 8 of the world's 15 fastest growing economies, and there is huge demand on the continent for clean, sustainable and innovative investment. UN report 500 million unemployed worldwide brewing trouble. A new United Nations report which shows that more than 470 million people are unemployed or underemployed globally claims the lack of access to decent jobs is contributing to social unrest and warns that worse is to come. The report also highlights that many of the jobs that are being created are low-paying jobs. In international news, repatriation of Islamic State bride, Norway government collapses. Norway's right-wing populist party, which gained a share of power mainly due to its anti-immigrant rhetoric, resigned from the government, causing the government to collapse. The move comes over a decision by authorities to repatriate a woman suspected of being affiliated with Islamic State back to Norway. The woman was allowed to return as her child was seriously ill and needed medical treatment. The Santos had international help to loot $1 billion. As more details emerge from the international investigation called Luanda Leaks, Angolans are calling for an international investigation into the worldwide dealings that allowed Isabel dos Santos, the daughter of the former president, to become the richest woman in Africa. The leaks, which in some cases includes videos of meetings, estimates that dos Santos and her husband stole at least $1 billion from Angola, helped in part by Isabel's dad, former President Jose Eduardo dos Santos. Now let's take a look at some sports news. My colleague Momodu Gajaga is here with me. Momodu Gajaga, what do you have for us today in the world of sports?
Interesting, Jennifer. Thank you very much. We are going to start home as we look at the Senegambia Run for Integration, the second edition to be precise. The run kick-started in Barra all the way to Dakar. It took 3 days, on Friday, Saturday and on Sunday. We had a night stop in Kaolack for the first night and the second night in Sali, and then later on we arrived in Dakar. It took 50 runners who exchanged batons in a relay format, but first, for the first time, is women who took part in this run, and they kick-started the race. It has been very, very interesting as 5 different teams. First one is ASFA, which is a Senegalese athletics team, which took part in the run. Last year they won it, and this year again they came out first. The Gambia Armed Forces also came out second, and third was the Ministry of Youth and Sports. Also there was a joint team of the Gambia and also a team from Mbour. And finally, in the end of the race, we tried to speak to some of the athletes and also some of the officials, the Gambian ambassador and also the founder of the Senegambia Run for Integration, that is George Gomez. You will also hear from Nima Kamara, the female runner who came out first, and also you would hear from one of the athletes as well. This and many more on this insert.
I am happy, to complete this race in peace, because this is the first time I am experiencing this type of race.
But you have been participating in marathon runs in the Gambia several times. Even in 2019, you ran in the Farafenni Marathon, you came out first. What's the difference? How would you compare the two?
They are different. Yes, because that one, if you prepare yourself for 1 day, and this one, you see, I was expected to run 2 days. That was Friday and Sunday. But due to the situation, I ran the 3 days. It was hard.
This is a new event, and it seems as people are embracing it. This year, for the first time, we have women running. Last year, we never had women. And there is a cry that we should add the number of women that are taking part. The reception we had in Kaula, in Sali, and in Dakar, to me, is heartwarming. I'm very happy.
I mean, sports and athleticism, it's a unifying factor. So anything that we can do to bring the people of Gambia and the people of Senegal together, we should make sure that we fully make good use of this opportunity.
Well, Gajaga, that is a very, very interesting insert, but a big question is, did you participate?
Unfortunately, I couldn't participate because when I looked at the traffic in Senegal, it's too hard and too risky for me to participate. Well, of course, there are runners, they risk it, but they had to use like different vehicles to seal each runner. There are 5 different runners at a time. After finishing a 10-kilometer race in the male category, they will pass over the baton to the other runner subsequently, who will end the other 9, 10, or sometimes even 14 kilometers before the finish line. So when I looked at the traffic, I was very, very scared of the car, so I don't want to be in trouble.
Yeah.
Actually, QTV sent me there to be a reporter, not to be a runner.
Yeah, Gajaga, I know if I was there, I was going to join the team, I'm very sure. I know this is not the first time that this has been organized, so what has changed?
Well, actually, a lot has changed, because this is the first time you have female runners in the Senegambia Run for Integration. Last year it was held, but last year also, it's like a shorter distance. It was actually a little over 300 kilometers. Okay. It started in Farafenni and ended in Dakar. But this time around, it actually kick-started in Bara and all the way to Dakar, 320 kilometers as far as the estimation is concerned. And for the participation of the female, it has really made it very, very interesting. So you have both male and female runners.
Okay, what else do you have for us?
Yes, very interesting. Like I earlier on introduced, the World Cup draw for Africa has been made, and the different groups is like 10 groups of 4 teams. And in these 10 groups of 4 teams, it is only one team that is progressing in the second round. That one team is going to play against another team in the second round of the qualifiers. There you have 5 teams which will represent Africa in the World Cup of 2022 in Qatar.
Gajaga, do you think Gambia will ever qualify?
In fact, we have been completely knocked out because we played in the preliminaries against Angola in September 2019, and we lost to Angola both home and away, 1-0 in Banjul, and in the return leg it was 2-1 in favor of Angola. So overall, in the aggregates, it was Angola 3, the Gambia 2.
Okay, I hope we qualify someday. Thank you so much, Mamadou Gajaga, for that. It's always good to have you. Now, before we end this news bulletin, let's take a quick look at our main stories. In local news, a TRRC witness says complicity by Gambians helped facilitate Yahya Jammeh's authoritarian rule. Victims of human rights violations during ex-President Jammeh's rule informed the public of their planned march set for 25th January 2020. A delegation of a Switzerland-registered Saudi Arabian medical NGO in the Gambia, at the invitation of the First Lady, donates a significant amount of surgical equipment. In business news, as Brexit nears, UK woos African leaders, and 500 million are unemployed or underemployed worldwide. The UN says it is brewing trouble. In international news, repatriation of an Islamic State bride causes Norway's government to collapse. Well, that is all we have for you in this edition of QTV News. Do join us tomorrow, same time for more news. Thanks for watching.